All right, everybody, and welcome to another super high effort, high production value video, a tier list. That's right, we're doing another Darkest Dungeon tier list. This one is going to be every single one of the hero skills in the game. We're going to be rating them from very, very good to who even pushes this goddamn button, which will probably be a surprisingly large amount of skills in this game. So gonna go through them here. I've got the tier maker up here. A big thank you to Necronomics for making this tier list. Hopefully it has everything in it. If it doesn't and I missed something, blame them, don't blame me. If you like this content, do consider subscribing, leave the like button. Well, don't leave it, hit it, and let's get into it. So my rating for this is going to be just how good is the ability generally, how much do I use it, and I'm open to discussing. A lot of people hit different buttons than I hit, so we're going to go through it. I also hope I remember what all of these are called, because I might not. I might look at one and be like, I don't remember what that's called. So we'll see how my 600 hours in the game translate. So let's get into it. First one we've got is Absinthe. This is the Grave Robber's survivability button. Basically, it gives her dodge and speed, I believe. Oh god, this tells you how much I play the Grave Robber. This is actually a pretty good ability. It does give her a lot of good survivability, which is like one of the best things about her kit currently. One of the only good things about her kit currently. So I would say this is an A tier. A tier. It's good. It's a very good button to push. It keeps her alive longer, which, considering how squishy she is, that's a big deal. Next one, we've got Abyssal Artillery, or Ceiling Spaghetti, as many of us like to call it. This is a very solid ability. It does have the ability to stun, but the biggest thing is that it's just one of the best backline damaging attacks in the game currently. One of the only ones that deals just straight up damage, and it actually deals better damage than Demon's Pull, I believe, which is odd because it's an AoE ability, or it's a cleave, right? Hits 2 targets. So very, very good ability, very, very consistent. Definitely going to say, I'm going to call this S tier. Right now, this is a really solid ability. It's one of the few abilities that lets you hit the back line, which is right now very important. Adrenaline Rush. So this is the one that lets you cure off bleed, and then all dots when upgraded on the Hellion. This is really good for her survivability. You use this all the time. Also clears Winded. This is big for her, especially considering, in fact, a lot of people play Hellion at low health because she does more damage at low health. This is one of her self-sustains. Very, very strong. Definitely going to give this an A class. Anamnesis, I believe that's how you say it. This is the one of the weirder abilities in the Occultist kit. This is his Cleave Bleed that you need 2 unchecked power tokens to use. I would say this isn't his worst, like, big ability, like unchecked power ability, but it's definitely kind of weird. You have to be in the front 2 rows, which isn't a bad place for the Occultist to use this. Like, front row Occultist is definitely a thing. But like getting the unchecked power and then like using it on this, it can be very good when you like pair it, like if you have the bleed trophy especially, super useful, or if you have any trinkets that increase your bleed ability. If you're running this with, which I don't know why you wouldn't be why would you be running it without Aspirant on, but Aspirant does, this is a melee attack, so it does deal a load more damage. It can be very good. It's just pretty inconsistent. So I'm gonna give this like C tier. It's low, like I wouldn't really use this very often, but sometimes I have it and I'm like, okay, I'll click the button, just not very often. Backdraft. This is an interesting one. This is an ability that has grown on me over time. Basically, this translates the burn damage into physical damage on targets behind the target that has burn. It's an interesting ability. I think it still needs some tweaking. I think it can be useful. I've seen this used very effectively against the lungs, for example, where you can burn the middle and then actually use backdraft to do back damage to the back lung, which normally the Runaway struggles doing because she can't really deal physical damage to the back rows. This way she can. I would say this will get a lot better if we ever get a hero that can do burn outside of the Runaway, not counting the Plague Doctor because her burn is really low. So this would be pairing well with another burn hero, but right now I think it's C tier. Like, it's usable, definitely usable, but it requires a lot of setup. Barbaric Yop. This is only really usable, or only something that I really use on Carcass when it gives taunt, right? I mean, it can stun, like a double stun is pretty powerful, but you have to get combo on the front 2 rows. I mean, you can get combo in 1 pretty effectively, but like there are other better buttons to push. So I'm going to put this in... I'm putting it in D tier. I just don't like this ability that much. I'd only use it during Carcass, and even then, like, that's reliant on a path, so it's okay. I mean, I'll put it in C tier. The weakness is okay. I'll push it more than I'll push another certain button from the Hellion that we'll talk about later. Chop. chop. This chop is a good ability, right? Yes, it has the blind, but this is like the bread and butter of the leper. This is a very consistent ability. This is the ability that people push the most on the leper. Does really, really good damage when it hits, and that's just part of the lepers. So yeah. Battle Ballad. I'm going to put this in B tier. It's useful, but I don't find myself using it that often. I mean, I'll use it with Intermezzo, and it does have some good abilities. Like, obviously, it can make you give strength, and it can be useful for moving your team around, which is a good utility if you get shuffled or whatnot and don't want to waste a turn moving people. But I would say that there are, like, better abilities on the Jester that I tend to use, and I do find that the movement actually makes me use this not that often, because most times I want somebody to stay where they are and not move them. So if we have like the trinket that lets me stay locked, then like, okay, the trophy I should say. But yeah, Battlefield Medicine is S tier, right? Just, it's a good heal, right? This is used all the time on the Plague Doctor. It's very, very good. You know, I'm going to put it at A tier. The only reason is because it is battle limited and because there is a better heal. We all know what that heal is. So it's very good. It clears dots and all that, but it is battle limited. So like you do run out of it, and there is a better heal in the game in my opinion. So I'm going to put it there. Sack Stab. Oh no, this is Binding Shadows. Sorry. Binding Shadows. It's like low B tier. Can I move them around? Yeah, it's like low B tier. It's just the same as Sack Stab, except it has a lower crit rate and it moves you forward. If this could be moved from position 4, like it used to be able to, it would make a lot more sense because it's good at pulling the occultist forward if he gets kind of shuffled out of position. It does have a better chance of giving you unchecked power, because when you upgrade it, it gives you it's just a 50% chance to give you unchecked power. You don't have to hit somebody with a combo token. And if you do hit somebody with a combo token, you can get 2 unchecked power in 1 hit, which is pretty good. But I still find Sack Stab is just as good, if not slightly better. Like, and it just feels weird that there's 2 stab abilities that are like pretty much the same, but like also not. So, I don't know. I think Sack Stab is better. Wicked Hack. Yeah, this is Wicked Hack, right? This is an A-class ability. It's just push button, does well. I might even put it on S-class, because there's really no downside to this. It doesn't wind her. It does a lot of damage. It does more damage on combo. It's just a good ability. It's just one that you're going to smack all the time. Like, why would it be anything less than S? Like, good. It's just our bread and butter, which is good. Blinding Gas. I'm going to put this on B tier. A lot of people are going to disagree and say that this is like C or D tier for them. I like Blinding Gas. Being able to blind the back row can be super important, especially like in the Tangle when you're dealing with Arbalists, or in the Sprawl when you're dealing with the Immolatist or the Shaman dude or whatever, like, who can deal some pretty nasty burn damage. Blind is really good. This is one of the few abilities in the game that blinds consistently, and it can, I think it can stun on upgrade. Is it stun or is it daze? I don't remember. It does pretty good when it's upgraded as well. It's a good ability. Bloodlust. This is D tier. It's good at removing Winded, sure. Like, it's the only ability at base that removes Winded, besides Adrenaline Rush, right? But Adrenaline Rush has a criteria that you need to meet. But that being said, like, it's a setup move for like a bleed team, but it just I use it. I don't use it if I was running all bleed team, and even then, like, the Hellion's damage is consistent enough that I don't really need to be doing that. Against a boss, this might have some more use. Whatever. Bolster, I think we can all agree that Bolster is S-class. It's one of the best stress heals in the game, so the 2 real good stress heals in the game. In fact, in some cases, it's got more utility than Inspiring Tune, right? Because it can also remove Vulnerable and Weakness from heroes, right? Which is, like, Vulnerable especially, like, that's huge. And then it gives him a block plus token. Like, that's crazy. That's so strong. Like, it just has a lot of utility. Really good ability. Break. I'm going to call Break a D tier ability. This is only useful, in my opinion, against the foot soldiers in the Tangle, right? For removing the double block. Other than that, like, if an enemy has a single block token, I'd rather do Chop and do more damage and remove the block token than use Bash to, like, or Break, sorry, to, like, probably maybe remove a token. So, or like to remove tokens at lower damage. So, yeah, whatever. I don't need to talk about this. This is D tier. It should be lower than D tier. Breakthrough. We all know Breakthrough sucks. It needs some help. A lot of help. Not some help. It's not good. I'm not going to talk about it any longer. Cause of Death. I think Cause of Death is B tier. It's good. Like, if you really need to pop those dots, like especially on like the Act 3 boss or any large enemy that doesn't have like Death's Door, or your team is like close to dying, you just need to like get some hit. Like, it's really good if you can pop it, get somebody to Death's Door like immediately, and then have a couple more turns to just slam somebody down who's on Death's Door so they can die. It is a good ability, but it requires a lot of setup. It requires the right team, and I would say it's just kind of like, it's fun, but you have to have the right setup for it. I'm not using it very often right now. I'm going to put Cauterize as B tier as well. I think it's a good heal. Obviously, Bleed is like the most common dot in the game. I wish it didn't have the limitation to only 3 heals, because it's so restrictive already with the fact that you have to be bled. Like, if you know, it synergizes well with Intermezzo or potentially with the Occultist, but other than that, you need to have an enemy that bleeds you, which is common, more common than any other dot, but still, like, there are teams, whole boss fights, that will never bleed you unless you have something that causes that to happen, for whatever reason that is, that's like extraneous to the boss fight. And yeah, like, that just feels like a missed opportunity there. Like, at least let me just heal consistently with it, you know. Yeah, I don't know, it works well when you need it, but if you can't make it work, then it does nothing. So yeah, not super sure about that one. I'm also realizing I think this is Hue and that's Chop. So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to put this down here. Sorry, they look very similar. If you've noticed, all the Leper's abilities are like his sword moving down. So I think the first one is Chop, and then it's Hue, and then there's like, I don't know. Oh, no, that's Hue. Which one is which? Oh, okay. This is Hue, that's Chop, and then that is I think that's not Break. Bash. That's Bash, right? I'm whatever. They look very similar. I'm pretty sure that's Chop up there, though. Just go with it, all right? Chaotic Offering. This is C class. Like, this is good for generating up. Obviously, it's the whole reason of it, but like, the downsides to it, being able to like stun you or shuffle you can just absolutely, like, yeah, I'm setting up unchecked power, but now I'm in position 1, or I'm stunned and I can't use it. It's such a risk that, like, you know, screw it, goes in D tier. It's too much of a risk. Like, I just like would rather generate it in different ways, and I just generally don't rely on abilities that require unchecked power. I usually only have one ability on my toolbar, my hotbar, that has unchecked power requirements, like, you know, Falling Stars, or maybe an Amnesis, Malediction, and you know, I'll use it if I happen to, but like, I won't rely on it. It'll just be a button I can push, like, ooh, I can get Falling Stars, sure, I'll use it, but I'm not relying on it. So okay, this one I think is Break, right? Bash, sorry. This is the one that immobilizes him in the front row, or immobilizes him wherever he is, and then immobilizes the enemy and dazes them. This one's pretty good. This one I give B class. It's specific, works really well against the baby, a couple other different enemies, but it's good for locking him in position 1, which can be really useful if you don't want the Leper getting shuffled around, because the Leper doesn't work well in other positions, like we all know. So yeah, I'll put it there. I'm also going to put Command in B tier. It's a good ability. I wish the upgraded version of it was more than just the cooldown removal, because like, I only use this like with a Leper generally, right? It's good with a Leper. It's good with some other team. Like, it can be really useful in the Shroud if you need to get rid of some blind and you don't have Milk Soaked Linen hanging around, but it's just like, there are other better abilities in the Man at Arms kit. So like, I'll use it sometimes. It's not a bad ability. It just doesn't feel great. Controlled Burn. I'm going to put this in A. I actually love this ability. It ignores dodge. It causes constant burn, which is like the thing that the least enemies have resistances against, I do believe, as far as dots go. It's really good against boss fights. Like, you can land this early on and it just starts stacking that burn. Like, if you can get that on a boss that like is not burn resistant, like the Librarian, it can be really, really powerful. Plus, like I said, it ignores dodge. So even if they dodge the initial one, it'll still land the control burn, which is a really good piece of utility, because then you're still applying damage. Like, it will always land, right? They may resist it, they may ignore the initial one and dodge it, or whatever the case is, but it will always land, and I think that's a really good thing to keep in mind. Courageous Abandon. This is D tier. I don't know anybody who clicks this button. I don't click this button. Removing all of the block tokens off my Man at Arms for a potential of up to 200% damage, right? It'll remove block tokens and block plus tokens, but it'll only give you up to 200% damage, and which is a big hit, but like, you can do really consistent damage with a man-at-arms anyway. Maybe if you have his trinket that gives him an additional 50% crit rate on that ability, then it hits like really hard. It could be pretty good. You know, you stand fast and a courageous abandon, and then you can like maybe do that multiple times because he's generating more block. You can use bolster to generate block and then attack, right? But like I find the block tokens are generally very good for doing what they need to do, which is blocking damage into your tank. So yeah, I'm not sure about this one. Crush is an S tier ability. Let's just be real here. Crush heals your tank when he hits a combo, which is pretty common to have happen. This makes him, I mean, self-sustain on your tank like that is crazy. I don't even know why this ability does that, but it's very good, and it does very good damage. Even without being Vanguard, it just does solid damage. It's not bad at all. So yeah, S class, people can spam this all day long and just basically keep their man-at-arms alive all day. Great, love it, good ability. Daemon's Pull. This is definitely an A-class ability. Being able to disrupt the enemy positioning, especially against like cultists and whatnot, very, very powerful. Super useful in like the Exemplar fight or in any fight that has an altar, so you can pull the altar forward and do consistent damage to them with your big damage dealing heroes, which is pretty useful when you're dealing with like resentment, where it's giving them crit tokens the longer that it's alive. You don't want the Exemplar doing that. Yeah, it's a really good ability. It can also stun, I believe, when upgraded, or at least have unchecked power, right? I can't remember. I don't really care for that part of it, but it's just good at disrupting, and it does good damage. Like, it's not a bad amount of damage. So, oh, and it clears corpses, which is one of the other really good things about this. Very useful in like the Fetter or the Sprawl, where they have like corpse mechanics. Super, super useful. Good stuff. Dead of Nights. This is B tier. This is a good survivability ability. It's good at keeping the Grave Robber alive. It can also stress heal, which is useful when it's upgraded. Of course, the biggest downside here is that if there's a fight with no corpses, this doesn't work very well, i.e. any boss fight for the most part, right? Yeah, any boss fight. So it's situational at best, but I mean, against like 80% of fights in the game, there is use for it because enemies leave corpses. So it's good. It can be good for corpse control. It keeps your squishy hero alive. I just think Absinthe is a better heal overall, but you know, this does heal stress. Oh, and it gives you stealth too, which like if you're working stealth build, obviously that's important. So yeah, it's good. It's just, I don't think it's A class. I think it's good. Defender is S class, right? This can save a hero on Death's Door. It gives your tank block tokens. It can be used to farm relationship pips. Very, very solid support ability. Really, really recommend this one for sure. I don't think I need to talk more about that one really. Next one is going to be Disorienting Blast. I'm going to put this in B class. I know a lot of people really like this. I do like Disruption. The problem I have with it is that it is a shuffle. So because it's a shuffle, you can't control where the enemy is going to go. Sometimes they just like move one. Sometimes they move all the way. Sometimes they move like in a direction you don't want them to go or out of range of something. I would rather have the control of knowing exactly how far I'm pulling or pushing somebody. So it's a good ability. It can disrupt, it can stun and daze. It's good. It's just, I feel like it could be better. With Physician, it's pretty good, giving the vulnerable for sure. But yeah, it's not A or S class. Double Cross. There's gonna be a lot of B class abilities here. Double Cross is B class. It's good. Gives them a block token, gives them a vulnerable token, which lines them up for taking more damage. I think there are definitely better buttons to push in the Highwayman's kit, but if you have this one equipped and it's, you know, it also counts as a melee ability, which sometimes you kind of need if your range gets restricted in, say, the Act 1 boss, or for whatever reason you end up like in the front row, it has like a use case. So, you know, that can be utilized by other characters. So I think that's pretty good. I like it. Not bad. Double Tap. Yeah, Double Tap's a S class. Like, it's like, I didn't realize it did more damage than Pistol Shot for the longest time. It just does a crap ton of damage. It's really good. You know, I'm actually going to put it in A class, and the only reason I'm putting A class is because of the rank restrictions. It can't hit the front row, can't hit the back row. It is pretty restrictive, but it does do a lot of damage. But the rank restrictions do make it a bit, you know, you don't push it all the time kind of thing, but it's still very good. This is Dragonfly. I think this is an A class ability. Dragonfly is the one that moves her back a position and then hits the front two rows. It's a very consistent burn, but the other good thing about it is it's one of the few abilities that lets you combo the front two rows, potentially. Obviously, it's not guaranteed, but if you upgrade, I think it's like a 33% chance when upgraded, which is decent enough to pretty much say that you're almost always going to combo at least one of them. So there's good combo synergy there. It's got good burn ability, and also helps you move the Runaway back if you need to do that at all. I think this is very good. Combine this with the General's Trophy, you can basically spam this and just stack a ton of burn in the front rows, which is really useful if you get some like burn trinkets as well. Very, very good. I think it's a good ability. Definitely not like S-Class, but it's fun. I click this button a lot. Duelist Advance. For me personally, this is C-Class. I'm probably going to get a lot of crap for this. I just don't use this very much. Maybe it's because I run Sharp Shot a lot, but like I just don't use it very often. The Riposte is okay, but the Man-at-Arms Riposte just feels better in my opinion. And because of I don't know, I just don't use it that often. It's good. Like the best thing for it is the repositioning, I would say, and the damage is weak. I don't know, just don't really care for it that much. Echoing March. I'm putting Echoing March in A class, right? I find this to be one of the Jester's abilities that I use the absolute most, because pulling enemies forward, like I said, disrupting them is just so powerful against so many different enemies. Against like the back row crack shot who can do front mortar, you can pull them forward, they can't do front mortar anymore. Against the cultists, if you disrupt the cultists in the back row and push them to the front, the evangelists are less useful. They have to use Rush Judgment, and then the herald has to use God, I can't remember the ability it uses when it moves back, but you know, the cultist is very useful. It's just a really good ability in my opinion. I like, and with Intermezzo, obviously this like stacks bleed, which is pretty funny. But yeah, I think in the Jester's kit, this is a good ability. I hit this button a lot. Emboldening Vapors. Emboldening Vapors, I think, goes in C class. I think this, I think I need to use this ability more, and I think that's maybe why. But like, you know, strength is good, and then strength and speed is very good. I started using this more when I started running Physician more recently, which of course makes sense because you get 2 strength tokens. It's powerful, but I think there are just better buttons to push in the Plague Doctor's kit that I just generally don't push this one that often. So, with Physician, I push this one a lot, but unless I'm running Physician, I'd just find myself doing other things like damage or healing. That's pretty much it. Encore is a broken ability. I don't think I need to say anything more about that. Giving other heroes additional actions just can completely, like extra action utility is one of the craziest things in this game. This is by far one of the best abilities in the game. Should be using it all the time. Fade to Black is A class. I use this all the time as well. Again, I don't really like that it pushes him into position 4, but it makes sense because spamming this ability, like when you get locked into position 3, spamming this ability can just be crazy. It's one of the abilities that blinds, which is really powerful. Like, being able to use this, especially on a character that has good speed, so you can kind of see, oh, this enemy is going next, and my Jester's going first, I can most likely blind them, and then you can also mark them when it's upgraded. Really, really powerful, or combo them when upgraded, so I think that's a really good one. So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to put Finale in C class. I don't use Finale that much. I think it's a fun ability. I just don't think it hits, like, it doesn't do the dopamine thing for me that it did in the first game for sure. I feel like it hits hard, you know, and if you line it up with a combo token, it can pretty much guarantee a crit, and it does a lot of damage, but like, I just don't find myself running a Finale Jester very often. Sorry. A class, I think. This is Firefly, right? This is like her back row burn ability. I think it hits ranks 1 through 3. It's just a consistent burn. It's the only consistent, like, decent burning ability in the game. With Orphan, this can do like crazy amounts of burn. It's consistent. It lets her run in the back row. I think it's pretty good. Firestarter, I'm going to put C. I think Firestarter is a fun ability. I just don't think it translates super well. You know, like, obviously it works well with, what is it, Arsonist, that I think it gives her a crit token. Or is it Orphan? Orphan that gives her a crit token, right? But I don't know. I just don't like it that much. Like, I just feel like the burn you get from it is really minimal. So unless you're running the path that gives her a crit token, there's not much use to this. It can be useful. You can put it on a target with Riposte. You can put it on, like, you know, the Man-Arms and have him bellow and deal AoE burn. You can put it on a Plague Doctor and her use Magnesium Rain and get even more burn from Magnesium Rain, which can do a crap ton of damage. Like, when you think about all the damage it's doing across the board, it's good. I just don't think it's that good. More Grave Robber kit. Flashing Daggers. Or no, sorry. This isn't Flashing Daggers. This is, is it called Flashing Daggers? Yeah. I think this is, God, I don't remember some of the names of these abilities. C class. I mean, it's really weak unless you're using Venom Drop. And even then, you have to be stealth for it. Like, if you can do stealth, upgraded Venom Drop, stealth, Venom Drop, and upgrade this, you get 6 Blight from it, which, hey, that's crazy powerful. It's good at peeling off some dodge because it hits 2 targets. It's okay, it just does really low damage. I'm going to say Glint in the Dark is also another ability that I just don't use very often. Of course, with the stealth, this can be very powerful. It's the only ability in the game that just cuts through all DBR. I actually don't know if it cuts through the 5% DBR that like you get even if you're like 0, like you never go below 5%. So maybe, but if it does, it's still really powerful. But again, it requires the stealth setup. Other than that, like its only use is just that I think you can use it from rank 2, which is kind of useful or whatever. So yeah, whatever. Grape Shot, I think, is a B class one. It's very useful. Good AoE hit. Does like it's more consistent damage than Flashing Daggers. And combined like on Sharp Shot, right? Or sorry, not even on Sharp Shot. Using this with Take Aim, it like is actually a very effective stress heal because you can like guarantee crits on 2 targets, even corpses count. And you can get some decent stress heals from that. Being able to hit 2 targets, 2 crits is double the chance to reduce some stress on the Highwayman or anybody else on your team. I found this to be a very effective stress heal ability, honestly, so it's pretty good. Harvest. I'm gonna say Harvest is an A-class ability, right? This is it's a cleave that hits 2 targets for bleed, and it also can apply combo, which is really useful. I like this ability. I think it's just consistent. It does good damage. It has decent crit rate. Yeah, you know, adds a decent, and it's a decent bleed too. It's as good as his other bleed ability, and also applies combos. So, all about it. Hearthlight. This is only useful in the Shroud and some other niche circumstances where you need to remove blind on your team or remove a lot of dodge on the enemy team. It's good in the Sluice if you want to remove a lot of stealth at the same time from the little pigs. But other than that, it just doesn't feel that great. So. Hue, I'm going to put in B tier. I think it's good. It's just not as good as Chop. I mean, it's just a worse Chop is all it is. But yeah, I mean, I use it sometimes, but the damage drop off is pretty high on it. I'd rather just use the Leper to just smack down 1 person and kill them rather than do okay damage to 2 people. And also, it still has the blind effect, which like I don't like. So yeah. This is Wicked Slice. This is a B class. I mean, it's his good melee ability. It ignores a lot of DBR, which is useful. It's solid if you're using him as a melee hero or you're just stuck in the front rows. It can be very useful. It can do good damage too. So yeah, this one's pretty good. I mean, it's just consistent, just solid physical damage, which is a good ability to have. Highway Robbery, A class. This is a really fun ability. It ignores dodge. It can peel off a bunch of tokens. This is super useful against like crit and riposte and all that stuff. It's just a good utility ability, especially once it's upgraded. It can just like negate like like the Evangelist. Yeah, just put this on and just yoink all our tokens away. Even when it's not upgraded, it still peels off positive tokens. You just don't get them. So like that's really powerful. Hold the Line. I'm gonna put Hold the Line on C tier. It's good in some situations. It's good for getting out of a shuffle, right? So you can pull the man-at-arms all the way up to the front. I just don't click this button very often. Rampart is fine. Does more damage, I think, and also, you know, can stun just as well. So this is just like a worse Rampart. The only use for this is the Immobilize, which can be useful against like the baby fight, but you have to like stop yourself from getting the Harvest Hunger first, and your man-at-arms is usually very slow, and so he generally just gets it anyway and then moves himself forward. So then he can't use it. So not great. I'm going to put the Howling End A class. This is the Hellion's ability that just murders people. The only reason it's not S-class is because of the Winded and because of the 3-turn cooldown, which it needed that nerf. Like, it was a crazy nerf or it was a crazy ability beforehand. So, yeah, it needs this. It needed that nerf, but that just makes it not an S-class ability. I use this, like, either at the very beginning when I just want to remove somebody from the enemy's team, or I use it at the very end when, again, I just want the fight to end. So, it's okay. It's not great. Open Vein. This is a C-class ability for me. I think it's just, like, I don't really like using the Highwayman as a bleeder. If you have a bleed team, this can be very useful for removing or lowering the bleed resistance on enemies. It's good against bosses for that very reason, because, like, you know, if you're smacking a boss with this twice, like, you've lowered the bleed resist by 20%. That's huge. So it's really not about, like, bleeding as much as it is about letting other people bleed. So it works well with the Hellion and the Jester, Surgeon Plague Doctor, whatever the case is. But by itself as an ability, not that great. Incision's good. It's, you know, I only use it when I'm running Surgeon usually, or if I'm running against the Locks and I want to make sure she has a melee ability. Doesn't do crazy damage. The bleed is good, not amazing, but it's very good. Yeah, it's moderate. Like, I click it a lot. I don't click it all the time. Indiscriminate Science, S-Class. This is like the best heal in the game. It's very consistent. When it's upgraded, it just removes things like stun and vulnerable. It removes everything, right? Yes, it removes positive tokens too, but like this can be synergized with so many heroes, especially like the Highwaymen or the mana arms who generate a lot of tokens themselves and just get massive heals on them, or even the Leper, right? The Leper's self-generation of blind is a really good way to use Indiscriminate Science. It's a very, very good heal, and it's not battlefield limited, so you can use as many of them as you want, which makes it one of the best heals in the game, especially against boss fights, because most boss fights also stack a bunch of tokens, so this is a really useful one to keep around. Inspiring Tune, I think this is a boring ability, but it's a very, very good ability. The only reason I would say it's not S-Class is because, like, if you have low stress or something, then you don't need it. But when you need it, you need it. But that's all it does, so nothing much to talk about there. Intimidate is an A-Class ability. You can spam the crap out of Intimidate. Yes, it does low damage, but it does let the Leper hit all 4 ranks, which is really, really good. The biggest issue I have is that it's rank restrictive. You have to be in rank 1 to do it, so I would say it's very, very good. Especially if you're running a tank Leper, you really, really need this. I mean, the fact that it applies weaken to enemies is really strong as well. It's as good as applying like a block token to him, because you apply the taunt, they have to hit him, and then they use weaken. So, hey, that's really good in my opinion. Iron Swan, very, very good ability. I might even put this in S-Class. It's like the only ability that does what it does, which is that gives you back row damage from the front row, which is something that the game desperately needs more back row damage. It also marks targets, which makes it pretty useful in synergies of other backline damage dealers, and it does good damage. I think it's a good button to hit. Like, when you need it, you need it. You cannot, obviously it's rank restrictive, but being that it's the only ability in the game that does what it does, I think that makes it S-Class for sure. Lunge, I would say Lunge is A-Class. It does, like, it doesn't do as much damage as I feel like it should, but it's one of the Grave Robber's really good abilities. It does do a lot of damage, especially if you have her is it, which path is it? I think it's not Shadow, I don't know, whichever path does the lunge ability increase, like the damage. It's a good ability. I click it a lot. Yeah. Magnesium Rain, B-Class. It's good for corpse control. It's good for AoE, cleaves, and stuff like that. But beyond that, it's just a utility item. I only use this if I absolutely need it. Malediction, this is going in D-Class. I'm putting this in D-Class because the fact that you have to work so hard to get the unchecked power tokens, only for the game to then allow this debuff to not stick, is absolutely atrocious to me. Like, the fact that this can actually be resisted pretty easily makes no sense to me for how much effort you have to put into it. I honest to God, I think I've clicked this button twice. It's a funny ability, but it doesn't work very well. Noxious Blast, I'd say this is S-Class. This is an ability I use all the time. I love this of Alchemist. It's a solid ability. It does good blight. There's nothing bad to say about it. So, Ounce of Prevention. This is B-Class for me. It used to be lower, and obviously it used to be S-Class way back in the day. But this is definitely a B-Class for me. I think I'm using it a lot more than I used to. I'm getting a lot of utility out of it. It's very useful in places like the Fetter and the Sprawl, especially when upgraded. It's a good button to push, but like it's not always the best button to push. I like it a lot more than I used to, for sure. I mean, stopping on Physician, it's really useful. That stress reduction, that 15% stress resistance is really good. So, Pick to the Face. I'm going to call that an A-Class ability. Solid damage, allows you to play her in the front rows. It ignores, I think it ignores block tokens, right? Which is really powerful. Yeah, it's good. It's a good ability. It has the combo, additional crit chance on combo. Yeah, it's just out of all of one of her abilities, like this is a really good one. Pirouette, I'm going to put in B-Class. No, A-Class. It's a good ability. I think these are all good abilities. I just wish they did a bit more. I wish our other abilities did more damage. The problem with Pirouette and with Lunge is that because they're so rank restricted and they're on cooldown all the time and stuff, it's just difficult to like get much out of them. Whereas like Pick to the Face is her only ability that I really think is like consistent. You can use quite frequently that just does decent damage. Pistol Shot is definitely an A-Class ability. The stun is really cool on it. Feels a little out of place, but it's really good. Does consistent damage, has good range. Yeah, definitely a good one. Noxious Blast, I'm putting in S-Class. Not Noxious Blast, Plague Grenade, sorry. I'm putting this in S-Class. Again, this is another ability I just hit all the time on Alchemist. It's one of the few abilities that hits the back row consistently. It's great that it's a cleave ability. It does decent damage, even when even when not upgraded. It's a good ability. Definitely like it. Play out. I'm putting in C class. I just don't use this button very much. I know it has uses. Obviously, it's great at like shifting your team around. It's good with intermezzo, but like I find Battle Ballad to be a better version of this, honestly. And like, yeah, I like Battle Ballad is better. This is okay. Obviously, Battle Ballad is restricted if you can't move them forward anymore or whatever, but yeah. Point blank shot, I'm going to put in B class. Everybody loves this ability. It does really good damage, but it's countered by a lot of enemies just having dodge at the beginning. It restricts a lot of his other kit, especially if you're using range damage. Like, I just find that I get a lot of openers where I use this and it just doesn't do anything, or it misses, or whatever the case is, and you kind of lock yourself into using it if you have him in rank 1. Like, oh, I have to use PBS. I have nothing else that I can use on this kit. So, I don't know. I don't like this one that much, but hey, whatever. I'm going to B class Poison Darts. I actually think this is her most consistent damage dealing ability that's ranged. I like Poison Darts. It does do consistent damage. It's the other blight ability in the game that's okay. It can hit lots of ranks, which is necessary. It just doesn't deal that much damage. It feels a little underwhelming. But out of her kit, it's pretty good. Purge. Purge is... I'm going to say Purge is C class. I mean, it fits a purpose. Which is obviously for the leper, which is removing corpses. That way you can pull somebody from the back to the front so the leper can hit them. But the rank restrictions make it very difficult to use that often if you happen to have him in second position. So you need to use somebody else. And I think there's just better corpse clearing moves in the game. The other utility to this is for like the librarian against the books. You can push an enemy. Like, yeah, it can push enemies. I just find pushing enemies isn't that effective. Like, I'd rather just slam down with the leper using chop than use this 9 times out of 10 unless I'm against the librarian and I need to shuffle him forward. Yeah, I don't know. Rampart, I'm going with A tier. On Bulwark, it does a lot of damage on Bulwark, but I mean the stun on this is really consistent. It's pretty easy to get combos in the first couple rows. He can use this from position 3. The biggest downside is that he can't hit position 3 with this, so it's a little bit rank restrictive as far as the mana. Like Crush has that additional bit of reach, which is really nice. But yeah, it's a solid ability. It does damage. It has stun. Like, can't complain. Ransack. Ransack, I want to put like high B tier or whatever. Like, it's a good ability. It like obviously moves her forward and an enemy forward. The problem with this is that it doesn't synergize with some of her paths really well because you kind of want to keep her in the back. But it is like her best physical damage dealing ability, which if you're running like rank 1 Orphan, like this is good. And it can disrupt enemy positioning. So it's a good ability, but yeah. Raucous Revelry. Raucous Revelry I'm putting in B class. I hate that it applies Winded. I get why, but I hate that. But I mean, it's a good utility item. It heals a lot of health on her if you need it. It heals up to 3 stress on her if you need it. And it can also heal, a stress on your team. I wish it had a chance to heal up to 2 stress on teammates when upgraded, because the 1 stress heal, I mean, it doesn't make it a very reliable stress heal for your team, but it is an AoE stress heal, the only one in the game. Yeah, like it can heal the stress on your entire team. It can heal up to 6 stress, like net, like 3 on her and then 1 on each of your teammates. So that's a lot. That's like the best stress heal in the game, technically, if you're talking about net gains and losses. It's good, but yeah. Razor's Wit, I'll call A class. I think this is as good as, not as good as Fade to Black, but it's still very good. It gets him in that moving thing, gives him a dodge token, which adds survivability, and it combos targets. So as the Jester is like the combo dealer, very, very good. Reflection, B. I mean, it does its job, but I generally hate to use this ability because I feel like it's a waste of a turn. Solemnity heals more stress than this. Removing the blind is important, but I feel like if you're doing it right and you have the right team, you don't need this because you usually have a combo up that the leper can hit through, or you have his debuff resist so high that he's generally not like, applying the blind so much. So yeah, it's okay. Repartee. This one's an interesting one. I don't use this one very much. I think it's good for her survivability, right? This translates stealth into dodge and taunt. When upgraded, this makes her a pretty damn good dodge tank. The problem with dodge tanking is that it's not 100%, right? At least with a block token, I know that if I get hit, I am reducing the damage. With this, it doesn't reduce the damage, just maybe negates it completely. But like 75% chance in this game is still like 10% chance. So like, I don't know. I don't think it's the best in the game, but like it does increase her survivability, which is kind of the Grave Robber's like biggest thing right now, is that she can add a shit ton of dodge and survive a lot of things. So yeah, we'll have to see. Retribution, I think, is S-class. I don't think I need to talk about why this is S-class. It's such a good ability, especially when upgraded, adding the block tokens, the taunt tokens, and the riposte. So good at peeling off like enemy block tokens or dodge tokens, you know, extra actions, essentially. It's just very good. Revenge, I'm going to put in C-class. Again, I feel like this is an ability that requires a lot of setup. It's maybe good against, it is good against boss fights where you have time to like let it kind of stack up that strength and use it, but I don't use it very often on the Leper, and I feel like it's a waste of a turn. So, yeah, I'm not sure on that one. That's not Solemnity. Oh, this is Ruin. Ruin I'm going to put in C-class as well. I think it's a really cool one. I like this. It's only really useful, in my opinion, when it's upgraded to do the bleed. I think this might just be on me. I just don't use it often enough to like have gotten the use out of it. Like when you get that, I always find myself getting like all the strength on him, all that additional damage, and then like I miss the turn, like he gets blind and then he misses, right? So I feel like it's a huge gamble on him. I don't know. Run and Hide, I'm also going to say is C-class. It doesn't really have any use until it's upgraded. Like then it applies the heal. I don't know why it doesn't do the regen at base and then just do more regen at higher. It synergizes with her, what is it, the Tarfield thing, her special in item, where if she's stealth, she does like 100% chance to burn, which can allow her to burn the Librarian and the actual lungs themselves, but that's very niche, and it's a lot of setup for it, so, yeah. Sack Stab, I think, is A-class. I think that's just a good ability, solid damage, doesn't have any weird, like, it feels right in the ranks that it's supposed to work in. It makes him usable in the front rows, and it can generate unchecked power. It's a good ability. Searing Strike, B-class, I would say. Like, it's good. It deals burn. It can spread burn, which is like part of the burn mechanic, which is good, but it just doesn't deal that much damage, and I feel like the burn is pretty meh at best. Shadow Fade, I'm going to call B-class as well. The fact that it now stacks the dodge, right? You can get up to 2, or stacks the stealth, sorry. You can get up to 2 stealth with this. Obviously, this makes it a good ability for moving back and getting the stealth and then being able to use the stealth of her abilities that work, you know, and synergize with stealth. So it's good. I find it sometimes kind of a waste. Like, unless I'm running Venom Drop or maybe Shadowborn, you know, it's got use, but yeah, still, I don't know. This is Slice Off. I would say Slice Off is an A-class ability. Solid damage. It's single target bleed damage. You know, it does add vulnerable when upgraded. I would say the biggest thing that I dislike about it is that it applies like the same level of bleed as Harvest. I feel like it should do like 1 damage more of bleed, because it is like you're hitting 1 target, you're not cleaving 2. Then generally that should be like more. But it does do consistent damage and it has a good crit rate. So I think it's a pretty good ability. Smoke Screen. This is S-class ability. It's probably the only S-class ability that the Runaway has, but especially when it's upgraded. I mean, the vulnerable, the blind, and the combo generation, it synergizes well with so many things. Very powerful ability. Super, super good. When upgraded, it's like God tier. Solemnity is an A-class ability. Heals, stress reduction. The only reason it's not S-class is because it does take a turn from him, but it's great for his survivability, so you know, that's good. Soloist, I'm going to say, is B-class. You know, it works well with Finale. I mean, it's made to work with Finale, right? But I just like, it's good for his survivability. I just find myself wanting to do damage with him more. So it's good, like, if he's in a situation where it's like, oh, crud, I don't want him getting hit. Let me give him that dodge plus when it's upgraded. But, like, I don't like my Jester in the front rows. So, yeah. Standfast, I'm giving A-class. I would give it S-class if it always had the taunt that Bulwark gives it. It's a good ability. It generates block tokens, which just makes him a very good tank, especially when it's upgraded and it's generating block plus. It's a really, really strong ability. If it always did the taunt, it would be broken. It would be S-class. On Bulwark, it's like an S-class ability. Strategic Withdrawal. I'm going to call this B-class. I don't use this one very often. It's great when it works. Obviously, the biggest thing is that it heals you off of death. If you have Death's Door, it like gives you a big heal. But I really dislike abilities that require Death's Door to be like part of it, because like while it's good when it happens, like I try my best not to hit Death's Door, especially on my tank. This can be really useful against like the Act 3 boss, or any boss really, where you're trying to keep him alive as long as possible, and he's the tank and he's eating huge bits of damage. But really, the way I like to play him is to like have block tokens, block plus tokens, reduce the damage as much as possible, and keep healing him, give him the additional healing, like, and heal with crush or whatever the case is. And I feel like this is just kind of like a last resort. So take aim. Need I say more? This is gonna get nerfed. Take aim is by far probably the best ability in the game right now. Upgraded, double crit, dodge, and speed. It's just incredible. It makes the Highwayman like so freaking good. Such a good ability. Falling Stars is a B class for me. Like, it's better than an Amnesis. It's better than Malediction. It deals really good damage. It ignores block, but it requires so much setup. I'd rather just stab or just pull or just use Sealing Spaghetti. I don't need this meatball ability. It's good when it works, but whatever. Thrown Dagger. This is C class for me. It's just so weak. It's like, it's single target. It's got decent range. But like, even when she's got it upgraded and she has like her range damage buff, like path, I feel like this thing hits for like no damage. You know, yeah, it has like the combo crit combination, which is good, like the additional 50% crit. But even then, it just doesn't feel strong. It just doesn't feel like I'm doing, like, I feel like as far as backline damage dealing abilities go, it's very, very weak. So, yeah. Toe-to-toe, I'd say toe-to-toe is A class. This is a very useful ability on the Hellion. It's like the best way to remove her winded tokens. It applies taunt to her, which is good if you're trying to tank a little bit of damage into her, so that way she can do more damage. And like I said, it removes winded when upgraded, which is really, really useful. And it pulls her forward too, which is something that she needs in her kit. But Breakthrough is really bad at doing that. So I think this is really good because Breakthrough just wins her while she moves up. This is like removes the winded, sets her up in a good position. You can do a lot of damage with her. Very, very good. Tracking Shot. Oh, Tracking Shot is a very low B tier, high C tier. I'm gonna call, I don't know, but Tracking Shot's like meh to me. I know that it's really good when it's upgraded and it can remove the ability to generate dodge, but that's very specific to enemies that generate dodge, which is like the dogs and the librarian and is that it? I think that might be it as far as like enemies that, cultists, right? So it's useful, but like, I don't know, like it just doesn't seem like a good use of a button like on the Highwayman when there's other buttons that I feel like just do better things. So I'm gonna get these hexes mixed up. I don't remember which one's which. I think this is vulnerability, right? Which is okay. Vulnerability doesn't add a combo token. I can't remember between the two hexes. Honestly, I think that both hexes are B tier. Like, they're okay. The one that peels through, I think this one is the one that peels through dodge, right? This is weakening. It peels, it ignores, it goes through dodge, which I think is better of the two. But they're still just like meh. If I got those mixed up, whichever one is the one that does the removal of the dodge is the better of the two. Adding vulnerable and adding weakness are both good, but like sometimes it's just better to hit the enemy. Oh my god, I messed something up here. Oh, this is Bleed Out. Okay, I bet you people are freaking out in the comments. Sorry, this is Bleed Out. Bleed Out is B tier. My bad. Sorry, I got these two mixed up. Bleed Out is B tier. It's really, I mean, it's a strong bleed, especially if you have the bleed trophy and it's upgraded. That's dealing 12 bleed at a time. It's good on Carcass, obviously. It's good on, because you're not dealing physical damage, really, that ability, or that set. But I think she has better buttons to push. This is, I've already talked about that one, so that's going up there. Withstand is definitely A class. Like, Block Plus is really powerful. I think the dot increase on it is kind of pointless because he has such low dot resistance in general that the addition of this, like, doesn't really make him resist that much more. Combined with, like, Ounce of Prevention, it can be, like, pretty good. But, like, you have to get both of those on at the same time. It's a good tanking ability. And then Weird Reconstruction. I mean, I'm not going to put it in D because, like, it can save your life, right? Like, I'd rather give a bleed and get somebody on to 1 health. But when it bleeds for 0 and then it kills somebody, obviously that's the meme. But yeah, so I think that's it. I don't know if I missed any abilities. I think that covered everybody. Who knows? There might be a couple that I missed that I just don't think about. Sorry that I mixed up some of the abilities, but definitely let me know what your thoughts are. I'm sure some of you agree or disagree. I think this is very dependent on your play style of the game, which is, you know, going to differ from every single person. So like my bias of heroes is going to be pretty obvious here. But we didn't end up with too many D-class ones. I think the D-class ones all pretty much make sense as far as just buttons that people don't push very often. So yeah, I think this is pretty good. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments. Do consider subscribing to the channel. I'm going to be making more of these along with any other updates to come to the game. And yeah, I'll catch you all in the next video. Thanks.